The internet has come a very long way. If you think about it, 20 years ago, it was all about infrastructure. You remember the days when we're in our dorms or companies nailing Ethernet cables to the walls, connecting our routers. That was our internet experience, right? We had a computer somewhere and we used programs like Netscape. Does anybody remember Netscape still? Hands up, please. Right, we have clearly an age divide here because there are those who do remember and those who do remember Netflix today, right? We transit from that to the other. So now it's Netflix. It was Netscape, right? So okay, that was 20 years ago. Now you zoom forward another to today, and you go out in the streets in Brussels and you ask the kids what is the internet all to them, and the last thing they will tell you is the internet is all about Ethernet cables and routers. They've actually forgotten about this. I'm quite sure they don't even know that we have a huge digital infrastructure underpinning one of the biggest economical developments of humankind, right? So that's really phenomenal. We have transited from something which is purely infrastructure-based to something which has become service-based, right? Something which is plugging cables to the Facebooks and the LinkedIns and the Snapchats and whatever you guys are using every day. Now, we have now, by now, connected every single fixed computer on the planet, and we thought, you know what, we can push the envelope. After we've connected every computer, let's connect every single mobile phone. And we started designing the mobile internet from 2G to 3G to 4G, and I promise it's the only time I mention it today, to 5G. All right, to 5G. And if you're lucky enough on your little phone, this little logo says 4G, you actually will have forgotten about this cable, which happens to be wireless, but this connectivity, you have forgotten about this because your experience of 4G is as good as if you use a desktop computer. That's phenomenal, right? The only time you start looking up onto your mobile phone is if it drops back to 3G or to 2G and you're like, oh dear, my operator has not upgraded the coverage area here, right? But otherwise, 4G were good, and with the next generation one, I won't name it, right? Hopefully it's gonna get even better than that, right? So we connected now every single mobile phone. We thought, what's next? Let's connect things. So we build now this things internet, or the Internet of Things, and we're here for that. It's partially been successful. It takes time for things to take off, but we are there at the moment. So judging by the progress of affairs, we've built a great internet, great mobile internet, a great Internet of Things, and it seems all very rosy. Yet, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon in central London, I cannot make a phone call, right? Yet from 12 to 2, when I was traveling from London to Brussels, I was not able to make a single internet connectivity on the Eurostar. Digital infrastructure sucks from top to bottom, left to right, north to south. I can say it because I'm designing it. I've been designing it for the last 20 years, right? So I have 4 very specific propositions to you here in the room. Policy propositions, technology propositions, very simple. And hopefully they will unlock what is there already in terms of potential and further developments. Can we do that? Okay, let's listen. Number 1, I think we need to work much more, we need much stronger policies on the cross-utilization of digital assets. Let me explain that. Let me explain that by means of fiber. Now, when you look at the internet today, you're under the impression it's a very flat infrastructure and every computer can talk to every computer. Now, what you don't know is that in reality, we have a huge amount of parallel internets, huge amount, right? And they're not talking to each other. So you have the mobile internet, right? The stuff mobile operator, let me take the UK, EE, O2, Vodafone, each of them have their own fiber infrastructure. They're not talking to each other, only very far down the country where it's far too late, right? We have the fiber infrastructure of Network Rail. We have the fiber infrastructure of all the highways. We have the fiber infrastructure of Transport for London. Now, I'm sure you have exactly the same in every single member country. In fact, it turns out we have a huge amount of fiber infrastructure, none of which is really fully utilized at all times of the day. So what we lack currently is a policy which introduces deregulatory frameworks as well as competition across different silos, right? There's no reason why in the UK, O2 shouldn't be using Network Rails or TfL's, Transport for London's fiber infrastructure at 5 to 7 p.m. in the afternoon so I can make my phone call, okay? So we have done a huge investment in digital. It's there. We now need to get smart about it, and some very simple regulations across the portfolio would help here. And I understand it's very difficult because there are different departments involved, but the discussion is going on in the UK. National Infrastructure Commission have pushed them a lot to do that, and I think it's time to take that up in Europe. Let's assume we have solved that problem, and now data is flowing really wildly through our cross-utilized digital infrastructure. Then we start seeing that we collect a lot of data. IoT is a good example. So we're collecting a lot of stuff, and you invited me to talk about my company. I didn't plan to do it, but here you go. Just stop me when I'm overshooting, because, you know, as university professors, we're paid to talk infinitely. Right, okay, here you go. Right, so World Sensing, I started that company in 2009. One of the four co-founders. I just came out of France Telecom and Orange. I was, in 2008, the author and co-author of probably every single Internet of Things standard which matters today. ETSI's 1M2M, IETF, IEEE, those who are technically more sound. So I've written and co-written all these standards on Internet of Things in 2008, 2009, everything around security. I've been corporate on a lot of the security issues, had gathered a lot of knowledge, started that company, and against all odds, we are actually doing really well. We are now the 240th quickest growing company across all sectors in the world. So a real European success, I have to say, because all our US competitors, whose aggregate investment was more than $100 million, are dead today. Right, so we're very smart about this, and we understood very well what the difference between need and demand, and supply and demand, and we're very judicious planning, and we're doing pretty well right now. B2B company, so you don't read about us in the news, but if you talk to companies or cities in general, they will probably know us. So we invented the term, actually, Ignazi and myself, we invented the concept of smart parking. We're the first ones to do that, along with street line networks in the United States, which is dead by now, so here you go, we made it. We then built out a traffic portfolio. We bought and acquired another companies doing traffic for cities. We did a joint venture. So we're probably now the company with the largest real-time smart city live data what we have, right? So a lot of data accumulating, and we can build beautiful graphs, you know, it looks all very beautiful. It's, of course, completely useless, all right? So all this big data stuff we're doing is useless. So here comes my proposition number 2. We need a much bolder transformation from big data to big action. All that data only matters once we actually act on the data. And there's far too little talking about this. We have spent too much emphasis on all the upstream gathering of data, using Internet of Things, using the digital infrastructure, building beautiful front ends, PowerPoints, graphs, just so we can show it to the CEO, and the CEO has 5 minutes of hallelujah, and then nobody does anything about it, right? I've been giving presentations about that Waterloo Station in London from 5 to 7 o'clock is very congested. Big data tells us that. Really? You know what? I knew that because I'm traveling through that station every day. I don't need big data. I need big action. I need somebody to act on that. So my proposition to the European Commission, to the Parliament, is to, for every initiative, for every project which talks about data, big data, you should have another component of the same size, urging for action, big action. Can we do that? Because then it becomes meaningful. Transition big data to big action. Let's make that happen, right? So assume we have done that, loads of action going on. Then, of course, the topic of automation comes in. And I had, over the last year, some really revealing discussions and conversations about automation. The whole topic of AI, autonomy, us losing jobs, etc. And I'd like to tell you of a story I had with a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, Hugh. He's one of the most senior pilots in British Airways, and I asked him, Hugh over there, I asked him, Hugh, why don't you use the autopilot for the whole journey of the airplane, right? From a technology point of view, it's very simple. You do the taxiing, you take takeoff, the flying, the landing, taxiing back to the stand, right? So technology can do it, it's no problem. He confirmed that. He said, Mischa, you know what? The only reason why I'm getting into this airplane every morning is because if I didn't, nobody would fly. Nobody would fly, right? So we could have flown airplanes end-to-end automatically for the last 20 years. We would have had 10 times less accidents. We all understand it. But nobody would use the planes, right? And the same with the self-driving cars. You'll be surprised what will happen when you put a self-driving car on the road. Your biggest surprise will be that nobody will use it. Let me query this audience here right now. Imagine you're getting into a Tesla, and be careful what you answer, because I have one parked outside. We'll do it. You're getting into Tesla, open the door, get in, switch on self-driving mode, you turn around, okay? You start working or watching the video, just as we have heard from our colleagues from HP, and the car drives at 80 kilometers per hour through Brussels. Who would do it?
There are a couple of assumptions you made.
Who would do it? There's scientists speaking here, right? Who would do it? Our hands up. So I asked the very same question. I'm asking this question at every single keynote I do. The biggest one I did in Silicon Valley in front of 4,000 people. All the people designing the systems. 10 hands went up. 10. Yeah? Right? So we're making a very big assumption here, and we've just forgotten that actually humans love humans. And humans trust humans, even knowing that many times a machine is probably a safer bet to do. We understand it consciously. Subconsciously, there's something else we haven't really grasped. And I think that's one of the biggest problems. So we need to be bold about the whole notion of automation. Automation isn't bad, but we need to be clever about it. We need to put the human back into the whole loop, right? So we should talk less Industry 4.0. We should talk more Human 4.0. We should use the capabilities of the technology we have to empower people, not machines. So I've started a new initiative on this. Normally my keynotes go about this, and I'm designing actually an entirely new internet, and I called it the Internet of Skills. And it is exactly about empowering you as a human race to transmit your skills digitally. The physical skills, right? If you're good in painting, teach me, no matter where you are. If you're good in playing the piano, I can teach you. If you're good in maintaining an engine, do it remotely, right? So the ability to transmit kinesthetic, muscle movement, touch, etc., would, I think, democratize labor the very same way as the internet has democratized knowledge. And so we're building this internet, and I think that will enable the humans to be in the loop. And coming back to the car, I think the self-driving car will work, but only if I know that in the case of the cases, if my AI engine is hitting a problem, there's a human driver somewhere taking over. And that's what we're doing. Right? So right now with TfL, we're building, I coined this term, driving as a service. You're driving through London, and you would have literally the AI engine doing the work. It would go through the city. But at some point, and we know this when singularities kick in, you would start hitting over the driving experience to a real driver sitting somewhere in a game station-like center and actually taking over the driving. You would have much more confidence that there's somebody actually doing the work for you when the machine fails, right? So, and we believe, and we ask people, and this is when the hands already start going up because people start building trust. Of course, for that, we need a good digital infrastructure, and we need this system, which I'm not supposed to be named, right? With a letter and a number in there. Yeah. Okay. Right? So that type of stuff, look it up. I think it's quite an exciting development, but we really need this. Overall, I think we need to, in Europe, we need to be bold about the whole notion about automation, the same way as we've been very bold about the data protection laws. GDPR was a very bold move from global scale. Very unique. From the automation side, we need to do the same. AI is a big issue. We can't hold it off. We can't have our European heritage of being a very social continent hold us back to talk about this. There's no harm with all that, okay, as long as we understand that the human should be in there. Eventually, what we want to do with AI is we would like to automate the jobs, right? But we want to humanize work. That's what we really want to do. I do a lot of silly things every day, which I would love to be automated. So I can do what I do best, being creative. And that is what automation would allow us to do. So remember that AI is good. You know, automate the jobs, humanize the work, have the human in the loop, and all was good. Right, so assume we have solved that. Of course, then machines and systems will hold a lot of data, and privacy is, of course, the big system. And I would advocate for something which people have talked about already, but I would like to push it a little bit forward, and it's all around this privacy by design. And have you heard of privacy by design? Yeah? All hands should go up, because actually I just told you about it. So I would like to push it further, because privacy by design actually doesn't work. It should be privacy by engineering design. Can I explain that to you? If you look at cryptography, so cryptography is an engineering artifact, right? So it is actually done within the mobile phone, within each data router in the internet. Things are being encrypted, decrypted. It's an engineering exercise.
Privacy is not an engineering exercise. It's a policy framework. It's a soft requirement. It's based on best practice. It's based on trust. You sign yourself off in Google, Facebook, or any of those, and you just trust the companies to obey all the privacy laws. Whether they do it or not, you just don't know. And nobody has the ability to backtrace that. The reverse engineering of what they do with the data is mathematically impossible. I can tell you that. I don't want to bore you with details. It's impossible. Could we hard engineer privacy in the system? We can do it. I have a solution for that, right? I have a solution for that. We can actually build systems where privacy is hard engineered the same way as the cryptography into the routers. You could imagine an IP packet not being forwarded if it does not obey certain privacy standards. We can do that today. We need your help. And I'd like Europe to take a leadership on that, because that would change the way how we will handle data in general. I think I'm done. Thank you.